Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JacinioTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode of SheKnowsArsenal Daily, going through the most recent Arsenal news and transfer news and all of that jazz. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know how things are looking and sounding. Like, I just never really know because I know the internet's not great right here. So yeah, just let me know how things are looking and sounding, and we will go ahead and jump in. Quite a tough day on news in general for the Premier League in transfers. So I'm sure you guys are going to want to talk about that. And yeah, and then more importantly, what's going on with Arsenal. There's 70 of you guys in here already, which is amazing. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Again, you guys could do me a favor if you guys love the channel. You guys can still vote for me for the FCA's best new content creator. You can just copy that and put it into your Twitter, tweet it out, and that counts as a vote. Or you guys can vote for me via the link in the description. So that's still available for another 10 days or so. So if you guys want to vote for me, please do. And yeah, so starting off, I do think that we need to kind of talk about Lucas Paqueta. He looks like he could potentially be going to West Ham, and that news broke probably within the last hour or so. And I do think that it kind of ignited a little bit of, I wouldn't say negativity, but I would say anxiety amongst the Arsenal fan base, or some of the Arsenal fan base, because this is somebody that a lot of Arsenal fans are really interested in, and or thought that we were still interested in. And I told you guys that my feeling on everything was that, Lucas Paqueta is somebody that we are interested in, but maybe his interest wasn't as firm, or maybe the fee and all that kind of stuff wasn't to our liking. And Risa from Goal Brazil has kind of said that, like, that my content is better with Terry. Well, thank you. Risa from Goal Brazil has kind of confirmed that Arsenal had spoken to Lyon early on in the window to see if we could buy Lucas Paqueta, and we didn't like the structure of the deal, and that's why we haven't moved for him since. It's yet to be seen whether or not Arsenal will move for him, but his agent is in London right now, and by all accounts, it looks like his move to West Ham is moving pretty swiftly. And so, I look at it and I just think, I'm just hoping that Fabio Vieira, if that's the midfielder and the only midfielder that we bring in, kind of shows that he is somebody that can step in and really do that job. I think Lucas Paqueta is definitely like the perfect option for the left 8 position. What he has that Xhaka doesn't have is just that ability to be more attacking and like really maneuver in small spaces, and he can operate in the half spaces and dribble really. And Xhaka doesn't have that, even though he's improved. So yeah, for me, it's like, okay, I'm just hoping that maybe Fabio Vieira is that player, and maybe that's why we didn't go ahead and get Lucas Paqueta. Maybe we thought that this was a better deal for us, we could get that done. But yeah, I can't help but feel a little bit like this is going to feel quite similarly to Bruno Guimaraes. You guys know how I feel about that one. I'm a huge fan of Bruno Guimaraes. I do think that if you look at the position that we're looking to fill and the players that we've looked at to play in that position, we've been linked to Ruben Neves, we've been linked to Yuri Tielemans. I can't say that I believe that Bruno Guimaraes is not a better option for that anyway. And so to see him in the way that he's basically taken Newcastle from a mid-table looking team to somewhere in the European spots, I think if you take him out of that side, they're definitely mid-table. But with him in it, they definitely look like they could probably push for a European position. And I think quite similarly, Paqueta will do something like that for West Ham. He will give them that class and that quality. Like, West Ham are a really hardworking team. They're a hardworking team. They have a nice system that works for them, but they don't really have that world-class talent in that team. Some people think Declan Rice is like a world-class player. I don't necessarily class him as that. But if you put Lucas Paqueta in a midfield with Declan Rice instantly, with Skamaka, who's another player that they brought in. I'm looking at them like, okay, all right. So they're really going to be pushing for the top four, which is clearly what they're trying to do. I don't think they're content with what they've been doing so far. They have really ambitious owners. So, yeah, yeah, like, I don't think really with Paqueta at this point, it's about whether or not he would come to Arsenal, it's whether or not we like the deal, and we don't, and I do anticipate some Arsenal fans being upset about it, but, I just have to hope that Fabio Vieira can fill that in or be somewhat of, like, not a version of Paqueta, but, um, fill that void, so even when Paqueta's playing well, we don't feel like we missed out on something. I do feel like the Bruno Guimaraes situation felt more heavy because our midfield looked decimated towards the end of the window because or end of the season because there's no Thomas Partey. We're playing with El Neni, you know, and things like that. So as long as our team looks like a top four team, looks like a Champions League level team, I don't think we'll view moves like Paqueta to West Ham or Newcastle getting Bruno Guimaraes as like a problem or something that we missed out on. So it's just a matter of like, what is Fabio Vieira like, and if we still go out there and get a midfielder. I do think if we got Tielemans, like that might ease the blow a little bit, if that makes sense. But yeah, I can't help. I did feel some type of way, you guys. I do feel some type of way because I just feel these players are primed for Arsenal. Like I just see them playing in our system so well, and you know, um, it just sucks to see them go to other places. But it also just underpins the idea of like this is the Super League. Like team players are not saying, okay, well, if I can't get into a top four team, I'm just not going to go to the Premier League. They're saying, well, I'll go to West Ham then. I'll go to Brighton then. I'll go to Newcastle then. I'll go to Aston Villa then. Because you can still get more money than you would get in other leagues and also be on the biggest stage just in case a big club would be looking at you. So what we're going to be seeing is that I do think these teams are going to be taking more points off of the top 6 and maybe more of like the Chelseas, Arsenal, Manchester United, Tottenham, more than like Man City, maybe. But it's going to be a lot closer. And so I've seen a lot of people kind of saying, like, okay, well, if you beat Fulham at the weekend, you celebrate it. And I do think you have to be that way because we're expected to beat those teams. But this is not gonna be Fulham of old. Like, this is not gonna be the Fulham that Scotty Parker brought up from the championship. They bought, Mitrovic looks really good. They bought in some really good players. They have a good goalkeeper, we know it's Bernd Leno, and, these teams are buying good players, and so we need to be ready for that, and, yeah, I think that move of Paqueta to West Ham has made me a little like, but it is what it is, isn't it? Big White Clock says a few years ago they said Burnley richer than Ajax due to EPL money. Ronald says João Palhinha. He's also João Palhinha. They brought in you guys. Ever since I had COVID, the brain fog like nobody's business. But you guys know who I'm talking about, the one from Manchester United. Who else did they bring in? They brought in a couple more players, I think, as well. Oh, Willian. Aren't they looking at Willian as well? So it's like, yeah, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different. Nottingham Forest has purchased like 16 players. They're looking at Renan Lodi. Nottingham Forest are looking at Renan Lodi. Like it's just it's different. Like it's just the Premier League is something like I've never seen before. Um Sperata says, not necessarily sure we need Paqueta, have offensive midfield options in Fabio Vieira, Odegaard, and Smith Literally, if we could have signed him for under 40 million. You know what? I hear what you're saying there. I definitely do. But I guess for me with Paqueta is because I also know he can play so many different positions. I think he would be useful for us. But I get the idea that we don't necessarily need him. I get that. I think a lot of this will be alleviated once we see Fabio Vieira in the red and white being that player that I think a lot of us anticipate him being. I told you guys this. Um, yeah, my internet's not great right now. You guys just Is it really, really bad? Let me know. Maybe I'll just use my hotspot really quick. Give me a second. I don't want to, but I'll try to. Give me 1 second. Allow others to join. Let's see. Networks. Let me know. Can you see me or hear me? Oh, I don't know, you guys. I don't know. I don't know. Can you see me or hear me or anything? I can see everything, but I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Let me know. This internet is so annoying. If I'm still frozen, let me know. Can you see me or hear me or anything? So annoying. I'm so sorry, you guys. I need to get another plug in here. I'm too far away from the modem. Yeah, so but we'll just continue on. But yeah, with it's just about what happens with Fabio Vieira and whether or not he's the player that we thought he is. Like I told you guys about the game that I watched where played against Porto played Lyon. And so basically it was Fabio Vieira versus Paqueta. And I thought he made a really good account of himself. I thought he was much better than Paqueta in that game. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Lucas says, if Fabio is as good as we hope, then I'd rather Tielemans than Paqueta for sure. Well, the one thing about Tielemans is that he can actually play in a double pivot, you know. So Paqueta is not necessarily like a double pivot player. He's definitely more attacking. So we'll see, you know, what happens with it. I'm not gonna. I, I feel a little bit of like a devastation about it, just because I really like Paqueta, and I just have this weird feeling he's gonna do a really good job at West Ham. But, you know, it's not like everything that we've done up to this point has been like a joke or anything like that. We brought in really good players. And so it is what it is, you know. But there's 200 of you guys in here. Thank you for bearing with me. You know, I really appreciate it. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. With Pedro Neto, you know, I think Fabrizio Romano has said that like once Pepe to Nice is sorted, Arsenal will try for Pedro Neto. Um, Arsenal and Nice are making progress on an agreement for Nicolas Pepe on loan. There will be no purchase option. Wages are being discussed, but confidence on both sides of reaching an agreement. So basically, we're in a situation where like I'm frozen again. Right, you guys. If you guys okay, so the stream is just going in and out too much. So what I'll do is I'll come back. It's 4 o'clock now. I will come back like in 2 hours or so and try to do another show. We'll talk about this stuff again. I'm really sorry, you guys, but I need to get closer to the modem and I'll set up over there and do another show. So and I'll make it up to you guys, but if it keeps going in and out, then, you know, I need to do it another time. Um, Does it seem okay? You guys let me know because I'm seeing some people say it's bad now or it's not. So I'll keep going. If it goes out one more time, if it goes out one more time, then I'll come back. But um in terms of like Pedro Neto, like it just looks like until Pepe goes, like we're gonna be just waiting. And I tweeted this the other day that I think with everything that we're trying to do is gonna go down to the very last day because anybody who wants, Pepe, what they're I would imagine that Nice want to pay as little as possible in terms of his wages. So if they want to pay as little as possible in his wages, what they're going to do is wait until the very last minute to try to sort things out. And so I am a little bit worried that if it goes all the way down to the wire, we may not be able to get the Neto deal done, but I do think we're gonna be waiting. I think even though Nice want to get this deal done and Arsenal want to get this deal done for Pepe, it just feels like everybody's waiting until the last minute to pull the trigger on some of these players because they don't want to pay anything. Even with Ainsley Maitland-Niles, like a lot of players, or I'm sorry, a lot of clubs are looking at him, but they're not gonna make a move until the very last minute because they know they could get him for, like, basically nothing. So, I do think that, like, when you look at everything that we're trying to do from now until the end of the window, it might take a long, long time, basically at the end of the window. And, with Bellerin, what's interesting with Bellerin is, like, now Barcelona have become sort of an option for him. Hector Bellerin has emerged as a possible target for Barcelona, having previously been keen to terminate his Arsenal contract and return to Real Betis. But at the same time, Barcelona also don't want to pay. They're going to wait until pay most of the wages. And so, yeah, it's just we're at a point now where it's just a waiting game. And I wonder if having to pay some of Bellerin's wages or having to pay some of Nico's wages might be a reason why we can't bring players in. But that's kind of where we're at. We have 3 players left that need to go, and everybody's gonna be, like, waiting for the very last minute to, like, get it done. But that's pretty much it with that. I see, people are saying that Neto is overpriced. Um, what I'll say about that is the way that the window is going, the market that's been created by people going after Anthony for 100 million, people buying Rafinha for 60 million, things like that. The market is inflated. Richarlison for 60 million. Deals like that have inflated the market to a place where Alexander Isak is going to Newcastle for 60 million pounds. It really puts, I do think it puts into focus how good our business has been, because if Alexander Isak is worth 60 million and we got Gabriel Jesus for 45 million, we did really good business there, as well as Zinchenko, 30 million for Zinchenko. Some play like Cucurella was 60 million, and I don't think he's that much better, right? So it's one of those things where the market is so inflated right now that somebody like Pedro Neto, if we were to get him for 50 million, you could make an argument that that's actually cheaper than what he's worth. Because if Anthony Gordon or whatever his name is goes for 60 million, you have to say that Neto is worth more than that. So for me, 50 million, it's inflation. It is what it is. But I think Neto is probably at 60 million is less than, or 50 million is less than what I thought he would be. I thought it would be closer to 70, 80 million. So, and I think the only way that this deal gets done, by the way, is if George Mendes works his magic. I think the only reason why we're in this conversation is because of George Mendes. So it's just a matter of like Pepe leaving, and then whether or not the deal, I feel like, is structured in a way that allows Arsenal to pay as little as possible up front, because that's usually what it is. It's more about how much you're gonna pay up front, because Arsenal can afford to spend money on Pedro Neto as long as the payments are broken up in a certain way, So if the difference is like, we don't wanna have to pay 30 up front, we probably wanna pay 10 up front or something like that. Very similarly to what George Mendes did for Jota. I think Liverpool only had to pay like 10 or so up front for Jota. So I think it's a fair price. I think it only gets done if it could be structured in a certain way. I do think that it'll go all the way down to the end. Like it really will be like a last minute thing. But Neto wanting to come, not pushing for a move necessarily, but wanting to come might help us out as well. And so we just have to wait and see, what happens. There's the other player that we're interested in, or we've looked at. His name is, every time I look at it, I'm like, what does that say? He's Ukrainian, young player, looks really quick and very skillful. His name is Mikhailo Murdik or Murdirk. Um, so there's reports out there that he's either Bundesliga or Premier League bound this summer, and it's a deal that needs to be looked at until the end of the window. Like he probably will get a move, and he probably will be significantly cheaper than Pedro Neto. Um, my only thing about it is like, does he not need a different step? Does he need a step in between the Premier League move to a team that's trying to push to top four? Does he immediately get into our team? Whoever we bring in has got to be able to step in for Bukayo Saka when he's not available. And so I wonder about that. But I do think that he looks a very interesting and exciting player. I don't know much about him. Like I'm not even about to say like, oh, I've been watching him since this and that. Like I don't know anything about him beyond what I've seen on compilations. But I do think that like he would be an interesting option should we not be able to get Pedro Neto. But I have a feeling that if Pedro Neto falls through, we'll probably look at Yeremy Pino because I think they're a lot more similar in profile. And so we'll see what happens. But that player looks really interesting. I know a lot of people like the way he looks, but I have a feeling he might end up in the Bundesliga, because that's the move that he wanted initially. So we'll see what happens. But he looks a very interesting player as well. And I want to know from your guys' perspective, if any of you guys looked at him, the Mikhailo Murdik guy, what do you think of him? Let's see. Uh, Coach Dave. Okay, you guys are talking to each other. Joshua saying, no top four, no excuses to keep Mikel Nadu. Don One says, if the window closes now, we get top four, but I'm worried about the other sides. What the other sides do next week. That's a really, really good point. I do think in the current condition of every single club right now, I would say if the window closed, like like you're saying, we would be a top four team. Like I think we would finish in the top four. But yeah, like let's say Manchester United were able to get Frankie de Jong. I think that's the game changer for them. If they get Frankie de Jong, I think they would be getting top four. I think they'd be right in there with the rest of us because they just needed a midfield, didn't they? They needed a midfield and players that are motivated. They've always had the talent around, but the midfield was never good enough. So you look at a midfield of Casemiro, Frankie de Jong, and Eriksen, and we're looking at a midfield like also with Bruno Fernandes mixed in, Donny van der Beek mixed in, Fred mixed in. You're looking at a midfield that when I look in comparison to ours, I'm not really seeing it's not really at the same level. I think we'd be still like a level below, to be honest, in terms of strength and depth. Then, you look at their attacking options. Their attacking options are good. They just are not motivated. Rashford and Martial are really good players. Like, let's not get it twisted. Then they want to add Anthony and Gakpo. They still have Ronaldo. Maybe they'll add Depay. So, and looking at Manchester United as the kind of team that needs to be in chaos for a little bit longer, or else they will look like a team that could finish in the top four. Spurs are Spurs. They're a top four team. As long as they have those two up top, and now they've added Kulusevski, no matter what happens, they're a top four team. It is what it is. Then you look at Chelsea, they could add a couple more pieces as well. I don't necessarily feel like Fofana is that piece, but maybe Aubameyang is that piece. They may need just somebody to put the goals in the back of the net. So I'm looking at them like they always are a threat, so it's all about what we do from now until the end of the window. I do think that there's things that we can do to make us a little bit more that give us more quality and depth, just in case the players that we have are not available. We always have a very strong starting 11 that can compete with pretty much anybody. But once you kind of dig past that surface, that's where things started to get a little bit murky. We've done a good job in fullback, those fullback positions. We have some depth there, but it's still quite thin up top. I still think that, you look at that front line and if they go through a goal drought, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We don't have a contingency for them. In midfield, we're a midfielder light. So, yeah, it's gonna be tough. Like, having that extra spot for Champions League next season, that 5th place spot is gonna help a lot because right now you have 6 teams that are all probably gonna be Champions League level, but only 4 can make it. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%, right there. Let's see. Tell me this, I'll tell you this says, "Do Tottenham really have enough depth, per position, though, for top 4 this year?" I'm gonna go with no. Doesn't matter. Like, I don't think it matters for them, to be honest. I just think with the way that things go for them, they're so lucky, like, all the time, and as long as Kane and Son don't get injured, they're fine. Like, it's just the way that they play, so difficult. They're not concerned about playing good football. That's the thing about Spurs. They don't care about free flowing. Like, that's something that Arsenal have to worry about. We would never be able to get away with the type of football that Conte or Jose Mourinho plays. It just doesn't go for us. But Tottenham, as long as they can get on the counter attack and have 1 or 2 chances drop to those 2 guys, they're fine. So I think that just you have 2 world-class players at the top end of your pitch, like, at the top end of the pitch, you're set, you're fine. I do think that they will probably just be fine. I don't think they'll do anything in Champions League, but I think in the league, they'll have enough consistency to do well. Conte is a very good league manager. Don One says, "Extra Champions League spot next season." I didn't know this. So, yeah, I don't think it's like this season. Like, next season when we play, you will be able to qualify for the Champions League, um, for through the 5th spot as well. They added another spot. So yeah, like, it'll help, but then there'll be more teams still. So you never know. Um, let's see. Um, Lucas says we might be able to rotate more than UCL teams because the level of opposition that could be our advantage until Europa League quarters, hopefully. So yeah, let's I know we're kind of getting off topic here. There's almost 300 of you guys in here, which is amazing. Please smash the likes, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of stuff. But the one thing that I did want to speak about is Zaha, because Dean Jones was on the Football Terrace today and said that Zaha is also on the list with Yeremy Pino and Pedro Neto. And what I'm about to say is probably going to shock you guys, but depending on the fee, I would take Zaha. I would, depending on the fee. I think with Arsenal at the moment, we don't need any more youth. We really don't need any more youth. I know that people are going to say, well, he's 29, he's 29, he's 29. But look what he's doing in the league right now. And 29 is not old for players now. Like, come on. Come on. Like, the idea that buying players that are 29, or something like that, 28, 29 is a bad thing. I don't think so. I think it's just you have to be able to utilize them at the moment. And Arsenal are no longer in future phase. Like, we are in now and future phase where we need to be performing now and doing well now, but also building for the future. I think Zaha would be a now type of player to bring in. Again, it all depends on the fee. It all depends on the fee. But can play across the front experience in the league. He's a mid-table, kind of like a mid-table king. And I still think that he could do really well at a top 4 team. It's just a matter of, keeping him on track and not letting him get frustrated, because he gets frustrated quite easily. I think a lot of his frustration is built around the idea that he's not respected. And he's a player that could easily probably play for a top 6 team, but is in mid-table because he already made that big move and it kind of messed him over. And he should have been at Arsenal. Like, we should have gotten him over Pepe. So depending on the fee, I would take Zaha if we couldn't get Pedro Neto, because again, we're still the youngest team in the league. The teams around us that are fighting for top 4 have much older squads. And I don't think that age necessarily equals talent. But what I am saying is that if Gabriel Jesus were to get injured, would I feel more comfortable with a front line of Zaha, Saka and Eddie? Yeah, probably. Because I would know that we have somebody up there that's been there and done it before. And I still think that, like, Zaha can score, 14, 15 goals a season, in a better team. So for me, like it's something at a certain fee, you guys. Like I wouldn't pay 50 million for Zaha, but 30, something around that, I would probably take him just because of where we're at in terms of not having any senior um besides Gabriel Jesus, no senior and experienced attackers. But yeah, Zaha missed 2 sitters, but what else did he do though? Like he scored the goal, that gave them the draw. And I mean, most attackers miss chances every single game. Scoring a goal and missing 2 sitters against Liverpool is more than what any of our attackers have done against Liverpool in the last couple of years. So I'll definitely take that. But life comes around people not respecting him more than anything. Um, Tony says, "How much would Zaha cost?" I don't know. It would. I mean, he would cost a lot to Crystal Palace. So maybe they would ask for 40. You never know. I don't know how many years left he has on his deal, but for some reason, I just feel like he would come to us if we had the money, and you know what I mean. Like if we had the money and we really went after him, I think he would push for a move. Keenan says Zaha is very good, but I think he would end up demanding a starting spot. I would rather keep Martinelli starting to keep his development going. I don't believe in cuts, and I don't believe in holding space for certain players. Like if we brought in an experienced attacker, everybody would still have to do what they're doing now, which is fight for their position. And right now, it is a little bit obvious who's going to start, but I'd love to just throw somebody else in there, like a grenade in there, just to make things a little bit more interesting, because that keeps players on their toes. And if Martinelli and Saka are going to be good enough to play for Arsenal long term, they need to be comfortable with fighting for their position. It can't always just be these are the starters and we need to protect somebody's development. There's more than enough games to go around. Zaha would not be going to the World Cup. So he's definitely somebody that when Saka and Martinelli are coming back from the World Cup, could keep our team going right off of the back of the World Cup, when the Premier League starts back up. Yeah, because the Ivory Coast is not going to the World Cup. So again, it's just one of those things where I don't believe in starting spots. I don't believe in, we need to hold space for people. I think we need to have another player in there that can shake things up. That's going to keep these players honest. Ben Odison says, if we get Zaha and Yuri, then I'll be fine with it. I'd be fine with it as well. Mohammed says, we still need 2 signings. Finishing touches are important. We need a CM and a winger. Squad depth is important, or we'll bottle it up again. Joshua says, we ain't getting Zaha. Reminds me of the Murata lies being fed by Arsenal in the abysmal January. Well, the only difference is that it's from Dean Jones, and he has nothing to gain really from putting out any rumors about it. So he just said he's on the list. He didn't say that we were going to put in a bid or anything like that. And with every single position that you look at to improve, you have a list. And sometimes players that are not high on the list get leaked, and then it doesn't seem as likely, but of course it doesn't, because he doesn't really fit the profile 100%. But I think we'd be silly not to be looking at Zaha, because he's a Premier League proven winger that can play on both sides. And that's essentially what Pedro Neto is. So why wouldn't we be? Oh, and we should be looking at Zaha. Like, you know what I mean? Even if it's not possible, you know what I mean? Ion Lay says, Jess, would you go for 25 million Pulisic or 50 million Neto? Both almost the same age, both injury prone. I would go for Pulisic. I think the difference between Pedro Neto and Pulisic is injury prone, and Neto has had one big injury. So yeah, like I think he's had one big injury and a setback, where Pulisic has a catalog of very like muscle injuries, which to me is different than a knee injury. So Pulisic is a very talented player that's in a bad situation. And I do look at some of the players that Tuchel has in attack, and I ask myself, are they actually bad players, or does he have an issue coaching the attack? Those are my questions about that. But Pulisic, I would not want over Neto. I think Neto fits us a lot more, and Pulisic is actually more of a number 10 than a winger. He's more of a creative midfielder than anything, so he doesn't actually fit what we would need, but Pulisic is a very good player, and he needs a move away from Chelsea, but not to Arsenal. Let's see. Joshua says, Jess, my point is that these journos suck up to Arsenal, know what they genuinely feel. Don't you feel that all of these Fabrizio, Ben Jacobs, Arsenal coverage is all to do without breaking the winger target? No, I get what you're saying. I think there's certain journalists that do speak about Arsenal in a certain way, especially because they know that how our fan base is. We have one of the biggest global fan bases and the most present online fan bases. So it's kind of a good thing to have Arsenal fans on your side, kind of chomping at the bit to know something about, like, even Fabrizio Romano, he posted something about Fofana um not being in the squad for Leicester. And then also bottom line said, like, Yuri Tielemans doesn't start. He didn't have to put that, but ultimately putting that in there makes it so that Arsenal fans pay attention, even though it probably didn't have anything to do with us. So I get that there's some journalists that do like to be close to the club and like to be close to the fan base because that gets them more attention. But Dean Jones, I've never seen him report anything with any sort of agenda, because I actually think he reports from a not a negative standpoint of Arsenal, but not a positive one either. So I just, some journalists do want to be closer, but I don't view Dean Jones as that. But I also don't think Zaha is like a number one option or anything like that. I'm just saying that I would take him, you know. Don One says no to Pulisic. I don't want to give Chelsea money. Fair enough. Oliver says, then these players go for free in the end, like always. Arteta and Edu ain't good at negotiating. Solomon says, I'm really worried about Partey gets injured and our season collapses. Yeah, I mean, there's a worry about that big gaping hole behind Thomas Partey, that there's nobody really there to step in that has a similar level of quality or experience. Sambi and El Neni are not it, as far as I'm concerned. Like, they're just not it. In terms of being able to step in for Thomas Partey and allowing us to play the way that we need to be able to play. So there is that. But, Arsenal, that's the bed that they will have to lie in. Most Arsenal fans have been screaming about having a what? Did I say I wouldn't want Zaha anywhere near us? Maybe I did say that. I don't know. Sometimes sometimes, like, yeah. If I did say that, then fair enough, because that is something I would have said like a week ago. But then he also played really well the last couple weeks, and so yeah. Now I would probably take him for a certain fee. But yeah, like, in terms of, I don't even know what I was saying anymore, because I do think I did say that. Coach Dave, I think you're right. I think I did say that I wouldn't take Zaha. And now I'm like, yeah, I would. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. Narit says, still feeling gutted as as a Liverpool fan, but listening to you somehow cheers me up. Keep up the great work. Smash the likes, people. Well, like, at the same time, like, Liverpool have so many injuries, and so it just depends on, like, how Liverpool cope with those injuries and if they go ahead and bring in a midfielder or not. But that's the worst I've ever seen Liverpool play. So you can only go up from here, right? Big White Clock says our season will likely tail off, at least in the league, because of the squad will be young. It's just a question of how long we can stay in the race. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and that's what I was saying about the whole Thomas Partey injury and potentially not having that player behind him and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like, there's just nobody really there that can have that same level of quality, and that's up to Arsenal to lie in that bed. We've went through 2 summer windows, like last window and this window, without addressing it. And addressing it is not giving El Neni a new contract. So, maybe they feel like it's good enough, but it just feels like they're very content with the midfield pivot that we have. And it's their funeral, as far as I'm concerned. She Knows Football says Zaha scores 1 goal and botches 3 goals. easy goals versus Liverpool, and people love him just because he scored one versus Liverpool, highlight merchants. But you miss more than you make. That's the point. You miss more than you make. It's very rare that you finish every chance that you get. So and he's actually had a really good season. Zaha has, so we have to give him credit for that. Moses says, why not going for Madrid? He's very talented. He is very talented. I feel like in the order of things, like I would probably go for Neto, Pino, Zaha, Murdic. I just feel like we need, like, I like the Pedro, Neto, and Pino kind of play similarly. So I would probably go for either one of them first, and then Zaha as like a panic buy almost, just to make sure that we had a more experienced attacker in there that can play across all front three, but he doesn't necessarily play the same way. And then Madrid, because I don't know how close he is to playing for Arsenal's first team, even though he looks really talented. I don't know. So yeah. Sparata says the truth is he improves our squad. Zaha terrorizes the ops. Facts. It's just a matter of like if he can be more clinical at a bit bigger team. I do think that there's like also a level of like as a mid-table team, nobody sits in a low block against you. They don't put two in. They don't always prep for you in the same way that they prep for these top 4 teams or top 6 teams. So how would he do? At Arsenal in the lower block, like against the lower blocks and stuff like that. But I still think he's a quality player. He just wouldn't be my number 1 option. I am not Ethiopian. I know, like, I look Ethiopian. Most Ethiopian people and Eritrean people say that they think I am, but I'm not. My family actually, when we did the ancestry thing, I'm actually more Nigerian than anything, but I'm African American. So, yeah, I'm not Ethiopian. John P says, do you think that Zaha would fit our team? Seems to hold up onto the ball a bit too much sometimes and just looks for fouls. Game stops a lot with him. He is a good player, though. He wouldn't be a number 1 choice, I think, because of that, because he's kind of different than the other players. Like, that's why Pedro, Neto, and Pino would be my better choices for that, because they're more similar to Saka and Martinelli. They can pop the ball around, play 1-2s, they can beat the man, but ultimately they're good on the ball and they also do their defensive work. But Zaha, again, I do think he solves a problem, but also doesn't solve others, and that's why he'd be further down the list. But he doesn't necessarily fit perfectly, and I think that's ultimately why Arsenal won't go for him, because perfect player. Sometimes I do think you can improve your team without having to get your number 1 choice. There's always a couple of players that could solve your issues. It's just a matter of do they solve all of them? And Zaha does not do that. Elliot Roberts says Zaha is ripping up the league. He would be an excellent addition for Arsenal for the next 2 years. It could be longer than 2 years, though. I still think that there's this idea that like players can only play until they're like 31 or something like that. Depends on how much they take care of themselves. And so, yeah, I think that you can bring in a player and you could probably get like 4 years out of him, maybe. Is Zaha injury prone? Let me know, you guys, if he's injury prone or not. Because I don't know. I don't follow him that hard, like where I would know. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. And then in terms of like Tielemans, I'll just tell you guys like the little bit of like information there. There's not much, to be honest. It's the same thing. So Fabrizio Romano, I guess this just came out that it's always the same, waiting for an official bid since May. It's up to Arsenal. We have to wait and see if they will decide to jump in at the end of the market. It could be a strategy, or if they go for different players. Fabrizio Romano, clearly, I feel like he doesn't really know much either in terms of this. I don't think many people know what's actually going on. But I've read several times that it's not that they've all like, I think the idea is that everybody assumed that the price or the fee started at 25 million, when it actually Leicester have always wanted more than that. And so because of that, Arsenal wanted to wait longer to see if the fee would go down. So it's always kind of been that they've always wanted a lot more. And if Leicester is smart, if more than one team had been interested in Yuri Tielemans, then them having a 40 million pound price tag might have worked out for them because then they might have gotten a bidding war. But because nobody else is interested in him but us, now as the window is going down and the likelihood of him leaving for free becomes more apparent or more likely, now they're willing to sell at a lesser price. So that could be what's going on. Publications said Arsenal are still the only side to hold major interest in Yuri Tielemans, and Leicester are reportedly willing to drop his price to as low as 20 million euros, which is 17 million pounds, before the deadline. If we were to get Yuri Tielemans for less than 20 million pounds, it's all worth it, I think, because to add a player of that quality for such a small price, a small fee. I do think with what we've done with Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, that would go down as probably one of our best incomings window in terms of the quality of player that we're bringing in versus the price and the market price that's going around, like what other people are paying for players of that same quality. So, if that's actually what ends up happening, then great. But I still feel like there's something else here as well, that maybe he wasn't a number one choice anyway. Um, let's see. This is from Tom Catton. I think he just tweeted this and said Arsenal don't need Yuri Tielemans as much as Leicester need to make sure they get money for him this summer. That's what gives me the slither of hope a deal could be done this summer. But as reported, Adu is in no rush and AFC prepared to wait until 2023. I mean, if you wait till 2023, you're not going to get him because there'll be so many. I think there'll be other teams that'll be willing to bring him in. So I'm hoping that that's just the club, saying things in order to push Leicester to make sure that they bring that deal down. There's also some rumors out there that he wants very high wages. I don't know. I don't know about that. He wants 200 K per week. He's not a free transfer, so most free transfers don't get exorbitant wages off the back. Because basically, if you don't have a selling on fee, you don't have the fee, you can translate that over to wages, and then so maybe a player signs with a hefty signing bonus so that ups the amount of the wages. But he's not a free signing. So if he wants 200 pounds per week, he can kick rocks because the players that we have on 200 grand per week are players like Thomas Partey, and he's nowhere near the level of Thomas Partey to be asking for those types of wages. He's a good player, but he shouldn't be getting paid more than, the majority of the squad. So if that's true, he needs to come off it. Nobody's going to pay, but I also have questions around whether or not that's the reality. And yeah, Tielemans is just waiting there, waiting, and we'll know in a week whether or not we're actually going to go for him or not. I do think that if we say that we're going to wait until January, that's a matter of we won't get him. And then I also wonder if the recent links to Caicedo and Tonali also signal that we might be looking for a different profile of midfielder as well, because they're significantly different of types of midfielders than Yuri Tielemans. So we'll know soon. This is from Ben Jacobs. It's a top priority for Leicester to sell Tielemans now because they want the money. It's just whether or not Arsenal are going to pull the trigger. And yeah, I don't know if we will. Like, I don't have a feeling that we will necessarily. It doesn't feel like we will. People keep saying like, we're going to put in a bid, we're going to put in a bid, but I'm not sure. So, so we'll see. Oliver says, just give them what they want for F's sake. No messing around. He's worth the gamble, in my opinion. Tony says, Alexander Isak is a Geordie. Yeah, Newcastle have signed Alexander Isak for 60 million. My only thoughts on that is that 45 million pound price Jesus is looking better and better by the day. C-Dub says Tielemans doesn't start for Arsenal. Maybe he doesn't to you, but I don't think that if we started him in the midfield instead of Xhaka, the drop off would be somehow massive or anything like that, or if we started him over Odegaard, the drop off would be somehow massive. I do think he's in and around the same level of quality as Xhaka and Odegaard, and I think he could play for either one of them or instead of either one of them. The only player that he cannot play um, in place of is Thomas Partey. Um, Alan says we need Tielemans, Paqueta, and Madrid to complete a devastating squad transfer window. I don't think we're gonna get all of those though. So there you go. Maybe one midfielder, maybe, but at least the winger is gonna come in, I think. Let's see, Oyalinka, Olu Yinka says bringing in Tielemans won't solve the potential Partey injury problem. It doesn't. It doesn't. You know, it really doesn't. So that's just the reality. It's not going to solve that. But I'm like, he does offer quality options or cover competition for the positions in midfield, which I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm gonna look it up real quick because I don't think I tweeted it or retweeted it, but it scared the living crap out of me. It was posted by Ahmed91 Gooner, but he basically put out our Premier League fixtures and then underneath it our Europa League fixtures right underneath. And yeah, like starting in October, we have a difficult time. We have a really difficult time, so if you need to play a whole different, or you need to give Odegaard and Xhaka a rest, you could play Tielemans and Fabio Vieira in those positions and you wouldn't lose much. And that's really what I'm looking at, is because maybe I'll retweet it. Oh no, I can't. Because it's a screenshot. But essentially, like September 4th, we play Manchester United away. Then we play a game on September 8th. Then we play Tottenham at home on October 1st. Then we play another game on October 6th. Then we go away on October 9th. Then we play a game on October 13th. Then on October 16th, we play Leeds away. Then we play on October 27th, we have another game, Manchester City on October 20th. Like there's a lot of games in there, so I do think I think having somebody like Tielemans would alleviate having to play Odegaard or Xhaka too much. It doesn't solve the Partey issue, but it solves we're in Europe and we need to be able to sustain or be in that competition a lot longer without having to use so many of our good players every day. Big White Clock says Europa League group stages are Mickey Mouse. Me and you could play midfield and Arsenal would get through. Yeah, potentially, but I don't even want to risk it because I've seen Arsenal teams struggle in the group stages and have to like still bring in our good players to just get it over the line. So I still think we need to be sensible here and make sure that we are secure in some injuries. Like I know it may not be the Thomas Partey injury, but I still think an injury to Xhaka or Odegaard would hurt us as well. We still need players. Yanzo says, if we can't get Zaha or Neto, how about going for Jared Bowen instead? I think we've already tried that, and he's not for sale, man. This is a Spurs fan. Come on, you Spurs 97 says, but you are not going to finish above that. We have Conte and Arteta. Fair enough. But if we do finish above you guys with Arteta, then you guys are finished. You guys are absolutely finished because you guys always are talking about Conte is going to be the factor. If you don't finish above us, and you guys have looked crap this season, like keep it real, then it's going to be, you guys can't show your faces anymore. So you guys can keep saying that, but fair enough. C-Dub says we're a trophy Spurs. Essentially their only trophy is finishing above us. They never aspire to actually win trophies. It's just as long as we finish above Arsenal. And Arsenal have won trophies in our worst ever period and during their best ever period, which just shows which club is bigger. Pius says, you know how to correctly pronounce Nigerian names. I don't. I struggle with a lot of these names. I can't lie. Like sometimes I feel really bad. I just I try, but I still feel like I'm not pronouncing them correctly. Um, but yeah, I do think that we need those 2 players. We've all kind of said it over and over and over again, and we'll know in a week or so, where we're at. But yeah, we need a midfielder and we need a winger, to make sure that we finish off this window strong. But thank you guys for like bearing with me and the internet issues. I know it's bad, but I will get it sorted. Tomorrow is Thursday. When do we play on Saturday? Let me just check real quick. When do we play? You think I know off the top of my head, but I'm like in a whole nother world these days. Um, so yeah, we play on Saturday. So I will do the match preview tomorrow. I'll do the match preview tomorrow, and we'll go over everything for the Fulham game. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. I think Fulham's going to be a problem. I think Fulham is going to be a lot more difficult than people are making it seem. So we need to be ready. I'm glad we're playing at home because the Fulham that I'm looking at is not the Fulham that I know, so I think Fulham are going to give us a tough time, but I think we should still win. But we'll go over all of that tomorrow in the match preview. But make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you guys feel like I'm worthy of it, please feel free to vote for me or vote for SheKnowsArsenal in the FCAs for best new content creator. You guys can just copy and paste that into your Twitter, tweet and then post it, and it goes down as a vote. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Get in the comment section and also let me know what you guys